I was hoping you could tell me a little bit more about yourself and how you got into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
So I started my career actually on the operating side and kind of came into venture via that. So maybe just working backwards, I've been doing venture investing for about 7+ years. And I've been at B Capital, my current firm, for about 2.5. Prior to this was at Citi Ventures for 4.5 years. Before that at Intel Capital. And prior to that had been mostly on the operating side. So had worked at Intel, worked at Symantec and a health tech company, and then started my career in investment banking. But the way that I kind of transitioned was I was working at Intel and had an opportunity to jump into Intel Capital. And it was a really interesting kind of story because the managing director who was hiring was focused on cybersecurity. And, at the time I had done kind of some previous work experience at Symantec, but I was really approaching that from a product standpoint and not necessarily, someone who was in love with the sector itself.
Yeah.
So I was able to parlay just that experience and tried to build out about 200 flashcards for myself to really study and prepare and get to know the sector as much as possible. And it apparently was enough. So it was great to, jump into that. And since working with him has been really great for me in actually deepening my expertise in cybersecurity and then broadly in enterprise infrastructure. But that's how I joined the industry.
And did you experience any sort of unique challenges as a woman entering the industry? I know that there are some potential conceptions around that or biases, but personally, did you experience anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I experienced any big challenges from that standpoint. When I was entering venture, it definitely was much more of a closed industry. There are many more participants, many more firms that are part of venture these days.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was incredibly exclusive for everyone. And quite frankly, there weren't that many women doing venture, and especially not doing enterprise software investing as well. So by virtue of that, you are in the minority. But quite frankly, too, in terms of the founders that you're speaking to, it's still quite true that it's heavily male dominated.
Yeah.
Especially in these kind of deeper tech areas. But I'm really fortunate to have great mentors along the way. So I think that was amazing for me to be able to learn from them, and they continue to remain kind of close colleagues and mentors to this day.
Amazing. I wanted to talk a little bit more about mentorship. How important do you think that is in the early stages of your career? And also for someone that's looking to enter the industry, how important do you think it is that you seek out a mentor, you go to people for advice?
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who prefers to have a mentor and has actively sought that out. Maybe not even consciously. I think that's just something that I look to kind of, gray hairs is maybe not to be ageist, but just some people who've been in the season to have the experience to seek out their advice. And so I feel like I've naturally done that.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important. One thing about venture is that historically, it has been much more of an apprenticeship type model.
Okay.
And so the mentorship is often built into the actual work experience and the day-to-day. So you do naturally get some of that experience, but it's great to have mentors outside of necessarily your, current firm itself, because you get different perspectives on how to do this job better and, really kind of be able to pick from best practices and incorporate that into your style as you grow in your career. But I would say that I think, Charlotte, there's an important distinction between mentorship and sponsorship.
Okay.
And something that I learned about early on, mentorship is often referred to as, helping you with your actual skills. And what sponsors could actually do for you can be actually helping open doors. Introducing you to new people, taking you along, those types of that type of advocacy is, I think, has a much bigger impact on taking your career from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage people to not only seek out mentors to help them improve the skill sets, but also to find those true sponsors who can actually, help them grow their career even further.
Amazing. What advice would you give to someone that is looking to enter the industry? I know you said about like apprenticeships and stuff. Like, is that a common route into your sort of side of the industry, or would you think that there's more of an emphasis on like studying and going to university and having those qualifications? Do you think that there's room for a bit of both, or what sort of advice would you give someone that's right at the beginning stage?
Yeah, I mean, I think the really nice thing about venture is that it takes like people of all different backgrounds and all different experiences. If you talk to any investor, it's like their story is probably an N of one. And how they actually entered this job industry is probably highly unique to them. So you'll see people who were former founders, people who worked in technology. You'll see people coming from the finance side. And, what's nice is that each of them probably bring a perspective to their space that is unique and can really be informative from that standpoint. So one, I would say that I think there is a lot more inclusiveness overall from an experience standpoint. And then two, as you're starting your career, I think the important things are really to, one, figure out like what do you actually want to do from an investing standpoint. What areas are you excited about? What stages are you excited about? I think the most important thing to do, not just at the beginning of your career, but ongoing as well, is to really, start gathering information on your preferences, because usually you're going to do your best in the areas that you are most excited about. And while you might get your first job into venture that is maybe close to, or maybe it hits it on the head in terms of what you're super excited about, I think it's really important to continue to be like self-reflective in those stages, because you get to then own your career in a more powerful way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And have you seen a rise in the number of women getting involved in the venture side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there have been a number of firms who have been very intentional in making sure that they're not just hiring women at the associate level, but we're actually, bringing them along to the partners and general partners as well. And I think you're seeing that across the board. There are a number of organizations that are also supporting that effort, like Allraise. But I think that has become kind of an understood gap. And as a lot of firms that have been around for a long time are trying to just update their bench in general, I think it's really exciting to see women step into those roles.
Absolutely.
Overall.
And do you think there are any misconceptions around women in the industry? Because of course, like you said, it is a male dominant space. Do you think that potentially there are sort of any false ideas around it? Because I know that there are two stances to it. Some people are very that not enough's being done. Some people are more, there is that inclusive like feel about it. Where would you say venture is within all of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there definitely are opportunities to continue to bring in more women. It's definitely not 50-50 in that respect. But I do think, like, in terms of gaps, I see more kind of positives than negatives. I see a lot more women entering, and a lot more firms hiring, and so I think those are all great things. So we're trending really well. In terms of blockers, I mean, I think it is really just continuing to push women into those kind of general partner roles. I think the misconceptions that might exist, but I think are being defied, are really around, maybe women not being as aggressive in going after founders or in fundraising and so forth. And I think if you know some of these, like, amazing women, it's not even true. So perhaps those are some of the misconceptions that could be there, but I think they're actively being defied at this point.
Amazing. Yeah. And what advancements would you like to see going forward in supporting women into the industry? I know you said that they are like defying these potential misconceptions, but what would you like to see, I guess, even from like schools and stuff like that? Do you think that there should be more focus around starting then and getting women into the industry then and getting an interest and making them feel like it's a space that they belong? Where would you say you would like to see those advancements?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to see kind of women jumping into the space. I think there is an opportunity for maybe more women on the technology side to come into venture. I think it's definitely happening, but it's maybe a little bit early still.
Yeah.
But in order for that to really happen, we should be seeing more women on the tech side, kind of growing in those roles. And so as that pipeline, continues to build and women are able to kind of grow in their career from a tech perspective, I think it's naturally going to happen. And I think generationally speaking, we're in a pretty good transition point to see that, because I think previously you would see a lot of, former founders and so forth who are men who are coming into the venture industry. But I think that you're definitely seeing now kind of that shift with like women leaders coming in. An area of opportunity, I would say, is that for people who are maybe on the technology side or even on the finance side, or just kind of, looking to transition into venture, one thing that, and young in their career, older in their career, regardless, I think the best way to get involved and to really like test the waters, so to speak, is to start networking and start trying to angel invest, right? And just to get a feel for it, because once you do get into venture investing, I mean, you have to convince LPs to give you money to make those investments. And, you need to be able to explain to them that you have a network and that you have kind of a way into some of these deals. And so building that early is always a great way to also understand, is this the right fit for me? But then too, to, continue to, build that track record that you can parlay into a proper venture career. And I would say that I think it is like a newer area for a lot of women executives. So I would encourage women to continue to do that as kind of a precursor into this career.
Definitely. And just generally, what sort of advice would you offer to anyone that's looking to build a network? What sort of tips would you provide?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think networking can be really awkward for a lot of people. And it can be really exhausting. And even if you're very extroverted, taking something that is like a natural activity and then trying to transition that into, a job can be a little bit daunting and pretty exhausting. So in terms of networking, I think, one, really understand what your goals are. Who are you trying to meet? Why are you trying to meet them? And so forth. And, be really specific about what that, looks like and, and how you actually want to operate as well. So maybe you're someone who prefers like more intimate interactions versus kind of larger kind of happy hour type of networking opportunities. That might affect how you do a reach out. The other thing too, I would say, is just be thoughtful about your ROI. Like if you are maybe more introverted, have less energy to really invest in networking, just make sure that, every interaction that you're going into, you have a plan, you're coming with something as well. And I think it's always really important when you're thinking about networking as to not just think about, okay, I want to meet this person, but why do you want to meet them and how can you be helpful to them? And if you are thinking about it that way, it becomes much more natural. And, that person will also be excited to engage with you as well. But I think energy and time management, understanding the ROI and being really thoughtful about what you can bring to the table will help you tremendously in building and cultivating a network.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd like to finish off by talking a little bit about B Capital. What are you most excited about for the future?
Yeah, I mean, with B Capital, so just a little bit about us. The firm was started about 7 years ago by one of the co-founders of Facebook, Eduardo Saverin, an exec from Bain Capital, Raj Ganguly. And we currently have about $6 billion under management. And we're investing across a number of different strategies and geographies. I sit on the enterprise growth team that's focused on mostly the US, but also Europe and Israel. In terms of, what excites me, and by the way, too, I should say, we have a strategic partnership with BCG, where our portfolio companies get to partner with different BCG execs
Amazing.
on go-to-market initiatives on top of our own platform organization. What excites me is that I think there is, especially on the enterprise side, a huge transition period that we're going through with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are ways to really rethink many different industries, the way that we're doing work altogether, and being really thoughtful about how can we actually, find companies that are going to be building something that endures and really brings us into that future. Is probably the thing that I'm most excited about when I think about the opportunity investing at B Capital.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been lovely chatting, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your week at BlackHat.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.